Good move by my opponent. Opponent is playing very, very strong. Like, very, very strong for 400. Ah, they just joined a few months ago. Okay, interesting. So I'm gonna speed up a little bit because I'm just getting a little bit suspicious. Just a little bit. But we'll see. What's up, guys? We're back for the rating climb. We are at 381 and continuing to climb. We should be able to get past 400. So I'm attacking the center, and my opponent does not defend that pawn. Now, sometimes there are tricks in these e4 openings where if you take a pawn, you maybe have to watch out for the queen coming and pinning your knight, or the queen going somewhere else and attacking like multiple things, just as an example. But in this case, we don't have to worry about that, so I am going to just take this pawn. Looks like a free pawn. And then we can probably continue our development on the next couple of moves, depending on what black's going to do. Okay, knight to c6. So I think it's probably safe to just trade. I am considering like a sacrifice, only because that's a weak square. So you always want to kind of ask yourself, what happens if I do that? Do I have any good follow-up moves? In this case, I don't really think so. I mean, yes, it's a check, but the king could just probably go back, and I don't really have much. Over here, it could just block, don't really have much. So I'm not going to sacrifice it, but it is a good habit, especially when you play e4. So just kind of always check those f7 sacrifices. It might be with the bishop, it might be with a knight. And sometimes you're going to be surprised that there is something there. So just take a quick look. All right, we've got 2 pawns in the center. That's good. Ooh, f5. So when I see this move, I'm immediately thinking about this diagonal, right? Queen to h5 check comes to mind. Now, in this particular case, g6 is going to just shut me down. So it doesn't really make sense to do that. But I am going to be keeping that in the back of my mind. Also, maybe my bishop along this diagonal. Want to just keep an eye on those things. So regarding this, I don't want to take it. And here's why. Because black wants to develop a piece. And they also want to recapture the pawn. And if I take this, I allow them to do both at the same time. And if you look carefully, after that happens, black's going to have 2 pieces developed, and I have no pieces developed. And I'm really falling behind in development. Yes, I have an extra pawn still, right, because we took that pawn. But that's not really worth it to me. So what I think I'm going to do instead is play knight to c3. Developing a piece and defending this pawn. So now if the pawns get traded, I recapture, and I have a piece out, and black has a piece out. Our development is even. I'm not falling behind in the development. Okay, and black plays move h5, which it does stop queen h5 because the rook is now supporting. So it has, you might say it has some idea behind it, but really probably not a great move. I think I'll play bishop g5 here. You notice how this pawn is no longer able to go to h6 and attack my bishop. So this g5 square just looks kind of attractive for a bishop now, right? It's also a pin, it's also developing, and so that's what I'm going to play. I could have also moved this bishop probably to e2 or to c4, but this looks nice because of the pin. And so, okay, black is just pushing the pawn. The problem with this for black is they're wasting a lot of time, right? These are 2 moves now, and I've gotten 1 move, and I'm probably now going to get another developing move. I could stop this, but I don't think I really care that much. I think I would rather just develop another piece. So let's go ahead and go bishop. Bishop e2 is attractive because maybe I want to go to h5, but there's still g6, but it's pinned. Yeah, that's actually not a bad idea. But bishop c4 just looks like a more natural square. So I think both of these moves have potential. We'll just go with c4. Just seems like a better diagonal, but this also looked, pretty good as well. And okay, b5 attacking me. I think now I'm either going to go here or here. Here is the same idea that I already talked about. We're threatening the bishop to h5 check. If I go here, what happens after b4? I move my knight. I am going to lose a pawn. Not really concerning me because I have all my pieces out and black has not been developing. So this has got to be good for me. Let's actually go for bishop here. I think this is a pretty powerful threat. So we'll just go back here with the idea of going over to h5. Okay, opponent actually is paying attention and stops that. So pretty nice move there. Okay, so what are we going to do? I would like to castle. I could castle immediately. The question is this, dangerous to me? Like, is this what black has done here? Is this bothering me from castling? I don't really think so. I think the value that I'm going to get by being able to use my rook in the center is more important than maybe this pawn pushing. Yes, it can push, but I can always just play g3 and I can cover that square with my bishop or something. So I'm not super concerned about that. B4, I do have to watch out for. I might lose this pawn. But yeah, really, I think I'm just going to castle anyway. I think there's going to be some aggressive attack here on the king because I have all my pieces developed. I'm ready to bring a rook over. And yes, I may lose a pawn in the process here, but I really don't think that's a big deal. I think the aggressive placement of my pieces and the fact that black's king is stuck in the center is going to be a bigger deal. Okay, and black didn't even do it. So at this point, now I really want to think about how can I open up the position and get to the king. So now I'm thinking about capturing. Earlier I said I didn't want to because I didn't want to develop the piece for black, but now I'm more focused on opening up this file for my rook. So I am definitely considering that move. There's also maybe like d5 can kind of open some things up, but I think this is fine. We'll just take it, and we're going to play rook e1 and try to go after the king. Okay, I was expecting this, and then it would have been a little bit more of an interesting game. This, of course, blunders the queen, so not really a whole lot to think about there. We'll just take the queen. Okay, and again, I want to get to the king, so I'm going to try to clear the way. I'm going to play d5. I want to capture and open up my queen. Of course, if black takes me, same effect. The queen can come into the game. Only move that's probably good for black is maybe c5. Keeps the pawn in the way. I would probably still push it and just, okay, they're doing something else. I'm going to take, open up the queen, and black is looking to be in trouble here. Probably bishop d6 or knight d6 is what's going to happen. There you go. And just trying to see how do I want to keep attacking. Like knight here maybe is an idea. Bringing a rook over is an idea. Do I really care about this? It's probably it's not like a huge deal, right? Like if this happens, I could just move, and I don't see any immediate danger. But maybe g3 is a simpler way to just completely shut it down. So a lot of times, if you can do a move like this, the pawn is actually in black's way, right? The rook can't get through its own pawn to attack me. The bishop can't go there to attack me because the pawn is there. And so I think it's an easy move to kind of shut down what black is trying to do. We'll play f4 again, just kind of shutting down what black is trying to do. And also, this gives you the option if you ever need to bring the rook up to kind of help defend this way, you can do that. All right. So what are we going to do now? Let's play queen to d3. I'm just kind of lining up on the pawn, but also opening up the square for my rook, connecting my rooks, giving myself the option to bring the rook into the game. Okay. And let's see. I'm thinking bishop g4. It looks like might be a good move. Whenever you're ahead, trading pieces is usually pretty good. You get closer to the end of the game. I don't see any immediate way to punish black. I could also play this. No, I think we'll leave that there because it's shutting down the bishop. Thinking about f5, but I don't want to open up the bishop and let anything crazy happen. So we'll just play bishop g4, force a trade here, and then we should be able to get to the king easier since we have the queen. Also, it opens up the e-file, so now like rook to e1 looks like a pretty good move as well. Okay, b4. So I'm going to take this because a rook is better than a knight, and so that's a good trade for me. Even if I lose my knight, I got a rook for it. Doesn't, he takes that back. Same deal. Lose the bishop, get the rook. It's worth it. I could deal with the knight, but I also see a counterattack here, which looks like a fork, which looks pretty good to me. So I might want to just do that instead. I think I will. Also kind of brings my queen closer to the king, and this looks pretty dangerous. So remember the time situation. I'm approaching that 3-minute mark, so I want to start thinking, okay, let's move a little bit faster, and let's not put myself into time pressure that may cause me to make a blunder towards the end of the game. So I'll just take the piece. Yes, I might lose this, but it's just a trade. And okay, I'm going to actually go on the offensive here and line up on the bishop. It's pinned now, so it can't leave, threatening to take it if black doesn't deal with that. So I'm not really concerned about this because I have a very powerful threat here. Okay, so we lose a knight, but we get the bishop, and king goes here. That's checkmate. King goes this way. I don't see a checkmate immediately. We'll start with this, and then we'll, I guess, trade the rooks off. And then it'll be a queen and a rook against a knight, which is pretty easy. Check. We'll bring the rook over. I'm not concerned about this because I am seeing potential checkmate here. Okay, let's see. We can go here, we can go here, we can go here. Lots of options. Funny, I don't actually see a checkmate. A forced one right away, but I think if we go here, it's not going to be far off. Yeah, there we go. That should do it. Because now if the knight moves, we have this idea. If it doesn't move, we just take it. And black just doesn't have time. Okay, let's play another one. 388. All right, let's play d4 this game. Mix it up a little bit. Still the same goal, trying to get 2 pawns in the center and just control all of these important squares right away with our pawns. All right, so that's what we're going to do. And this is the start of the French defense. We'll see if our opponent knows that opening. Okay, doesn't look like it. Let's just bring out a piece and support the center. General rule is knights before bishops. So usually you'll see me moving the knights first and then the bishops. Part of the reason for that is the knights pretty much are always going to go to these 2 squares unless for some reason you can't. The bishops, it tends to be more situational. Like depending on what your opponent is going to do, you might want your bishop to go here to block a pin. Or maybe you want to go here to try to pin your opponent's knight. Or maybe you want to go here to try to line up on this. And kind of depending on what they do, it helps to have a little bit more information before you make the decision of where do you put your bishops. So I think that's why the principle of knights before bishops, exists. So that's, obviously we have 2 pieces attacking, only 1 defending. So we will take it. Could have taken it with the queen as well. It would have been just fine. So I could move my knight, but I could also make a counter-attacking move here of attacking the queen and maybe threatening a fork over here. Looks pretty attractive. So let's actually do that and just gain some time and create a strong threat here. We'll move our knight next move if we're not able to do one of these. Okay, so here's a kind of a good example of why I waited to move my knight, because by doing this, I forced the queen to move, and it actually moved to a square that I can now attack it by moving that knight. And so I think knight to b5 looks like a very good move. Knight to f5 also looks pretty good, but knight to b5 I think is better because we're attacking this square again, which means I'm going to be guaranteed to get the follow-up fork. Also notice everything is defended, so I don't have to worry about any crazy forks and losing my knights. This fork doesn't actually work anyway because my knight's controlling that square, but I'm just kind of being careful. But yeah, now black, even though they're defending, it doesn't matter. I can take it with the fork. Now, instead of taking it right away, I think what I will actually do is take this opportunity to play bishop to e3 and gain another tempo, right? Because I'm just chasing that queen around and this threat is still there, right? And my position is even better now because I have a bishop out. I have all 3 pieces out, and next turn probably we can go for this. It just shows you why bringing out the queen early is usually not the best strategy. Because if your opponent knows what they're doing, they're going to just keep chasing it around, and you don't want to lose your queen, so you have to move it. But then you waste, a bunch of time. And here our opponent actually ends up losing the queen anyway. So I will go ahead and take. We still have this thread. If they take with the knight or the bishop, we will still have the fork. Okay, so they decide to save the rook, but in doing so, they don't take my knight, which really isn't a great decision. But I understand what they were thinking. And after they recapture, that bishop that I got for free now can come in, capture this, and if it forces the rook back there, we will have the follow-up fork. So there we go. And you can see black's position is kind of falling apart here. We'll take the rook. All right, good game. And you could definitely see in that game, the dangers, like I said, of bringing out your queen too early. Oh, did we play the same? Did I hit rematch? Or was it just random? I think we just played this person, right? Anyway, let's play again. We'll play e4 this time. Okay, so interesting move. They are stopping us from getting the two pawns in the center, but they're leaving this pawn up for grabs. So I will take it. And there is this move queen e7, which we have to be aware of because black might be trying to make the knight. Well, they're not. I'm going to say they might be trying to make the knight move and then come in with the queen. I was thinking about playing d4 in that situation. So should we counterattack? Should we defend? Or should we move? Probably there's not necessarily a right and wrong answer here. I think bringing the knight back is totally fine. I also think playing d4 to defend is fine. I'm going to go with that one just because it's a little bit more aggressive. It lets out a bishop, right? And so that's why I'm gonna do that. Normally, I would be afraid of putting my queen here because the knight would chase it away, knight c6. But in this case, my knight would capture. And so I'm okay with that. And if black tries to take, I would have this with check. And so black would never really get time to play knight c6. So one of the things you see me talk about a lot is this idea of time and gaining a tempo, right? And that's super important at the start of the game because if you fall behind against a good player, you're probably not coming back from that, right? We'll just go for the trade here. We're going to lose the knight, but we get the bishop. And the annoying thing about this for black is this pawn is blocked. That's a big deal because if your pawn is blocked, you can't move out your bishop. And if your bishop is blocked, you probably can't move out your rook. And so it kind of, this one piece sort of blockades three pieces and really just kind of cramps your opponent's position. Whereas notice I don't have a pawn here. I can move my bishop out. And once I get my knight out, I can move my rook over or I can castle or whatever I want to do. My position is just open, right? I don't have those restrictions that black does because of this pawn. And really that started way back here when black decided to bring the bishop out before, moving that pawn. So ideally, black would have moved the pawn first, then brought the bishop out, and then this guy's free to go. Okay. We'll just take the pawn. I'm not going to overthink it here. Maybe I could have developed or done something else, but it's a free pawn with check. Looks like a fine move. And queen e7, yeah, I could trade. But an easier, or I should say better thing to do, I think, is maybe defend and allow, we'll allow black to trade into me. And the idea is going back to the time and gaining tempo. If I trade here, black captures and black is the one who's ahead in development with one piece out. This way, I'm the one who's ahead in development. Now, black is forcing me to make a decision here with the knight. And so now I will go ahead and trade. But at least I had this piece already developed. And we can continue developing now. Okay, let's play bishop to d3. I'm just kind of defending everything. So like if the knight was going to come in here and threaten this, now it's defended. This is also defended. And so bishop c4 probably would have been a good move as well. Let's go knight c3, just get all of our pieces out. And now we have the option to castle either way. Okay, so whenever you see a piece lined up on another piece, even though there's something in between, I'm still going to be thinking that, hey, this could be dangerous, right? Imagine if this knight captures here, my bishop is all of a sudden under attack. So what's the simplest and easiest thing to do here? Probably just retreat. Now it's defended. And notice how basically all my pieces are defended. This is defended. This is defended. All my pawns are defended except these, which are not easy to get to. And so even though he attacks me, I'm not worried about it. I'll just capture back. So I'm going to take this opportunity to, I was going to castle this way, but then I guess I might lose a pawn here. So we'll just castle this way. And if this happens, I can simply recapture. Maybe knight to d5 would have been a good move, but I'm just keeping it simple. And yeah, maybe now I'll play knight to d5. Just bringing in the knight to a good square. Why is this such a good square? No pawns can attack it. So it's an outpost. It's also has support from the pawn. And so it just kind of jumps out at me as a nice place for my knight to be. And then probably the next step is to bring the rooks to the center and then start looking for tactics. Black has to decide where the king goes first of all. I get these random "you've been disconnected" messages all the time, but still playing. I don't think I'm disconnected. Okay, let's go ahead and bring the rook over. I'm starting with this one because it's lined up on the king, and I chose this rook instead of this rook because I would like this one to go to the e file. And if I put this here, this one would have to go like here or here, but it really doesn't seem as useful as right here. Okay, what's going on here? Notice how the rook is lined up on the king, and even though there's 3 pieces in between, I'm already starting to think about tactics because I have the option to take here, and then all of a sudden it's just 2 pieces, and there might be a tactic there. So I'm going to actually go ahead and take it. We're going to keep looking here, but I do see that I have bishop b5 check, and notice how quickly we went from 3 pieces being between me, my rook, and the king to only 1, right? It just happened so fast. And so now I think black has to be really careful here, because if they move here or here, I have the discovered check. Yep, there you go. I think they needed to move. Now they didn't have any good moves, because if they would have went here, I still had the fork. Yeah, there was no good moves for black. They chose this one, but here we go. The discovered check. My knight is invincible, right? Black has to take care of the king, and I'm going to be able to snag the rook. Could have also went over here and grabbed the knight, but a rook is better than knight, and so I'll take the rook. I am going to lose my bishop, but that's okay. It's still a good trade. And I could go here to make sure that my knight escapes. I could go here to just sort of start attacking stuff with my rook. I think I will choose that one. There's a chance that my knight could get trapped back there. I'm not worried about it because I'm going to be creating other threats here and activating my rooks, and I think that that's an okay trade-off. So we'll take this pawn, axe the knight. Yeah, so black, pretty solid move. Unfortunately for them, it doesn't work because I have a tactical idea here, but called removing the guard. So I would like to take the knight, but the bishop is defending. So the way that I deal with that is by playing f3, and it chases the bishop away, and when it retreats, let's just say here, the knight is no longer defended, and I can just take it. The other option is if black leaves it there, well, then I'm going to be taking a bishop, which is also good for me. Okay, they did retreat, and now we can take the knight. And yes, we're going to lose that, but we can start gobbling up these pawns, and it's a relatively straightforward endgame. Okay, so end of the game, what do I need to do? Well, these are my most powerful pieces. I need to use both of them. Right now, I'm really only using this guy, and so it's time to activate this rook. Let's bring it to the only open file in the game. As a reminder, open files are files with no pawns on them. With no pawns of either color are considered open files. These files are called half open files because they have one color pawn on them. Okay, and then these are closed files because they have pawns of both colors. So closed file, half open file, half open, closed, and half open. All right, so how do we activate our rook or our king? Actually, our rook is kind of looking pretty good now, so maybe it's time to activate the king. So let's go ahead and march the king towards the center a little bit more to give myself options. Maybe I want to start pushing these pawns forward, and the king could help defend them. Maybe I want to come over here and try to hunt this down. My king could do that. Maybe I want to come over here and stop these guys. Giving my king all the options so that whatever happens in the game, I'll be ready. Okay? And at the end of the game, usually the easiest way to win is by pushing your passed pawns or creating passed pawns. Passed pawns, as a reminder, are pawns that have no opponent's pawns that are either blocking them or can capture them. So in this position, this is the only passed pawn that I have. This is not a passed pawn because if I try to like move up here, it would get captured. This is not a passed pawn because when I get here, it could get captured. This one, however, there's no pawns stopping it. So this is definitely probably what I want to focus on. And I think I will. I will start doing that. So I'll play f4 so that I can support this one with e5 and start pushing these guys forward. Maybe even f5 and bringing my king over like this looks pretty good. And black is continuing to push. And when they get to a certain point, I start to wonder, are they weaknesses? Are they targets for me? And so I think I will just take a moment and play rook to d4 since they've pushed these pawns so far. And now black has to figure out how are they going to defend. King c5 looks like a good idea, but then I have this guy, right? And I could do this. Okay, so they are going to keep pushing. I'm going to capture. Doesn't really matter. You do want to make sure that you don't give them the option to get a passed pawn. But in this case, even if I take here and they push, I would simply take it. And so I'm fine either way. So I will just take it this way. Now, if they take me, there's really two ways you could play this. You could capture it, which is great because you eliminate the pawn. The problem with capturing it is that I'm going to have two double isolated pawns, which are very weak, and they're kind of hard to help each other, and they're hard to push forward. I could also play the move c3 with the idea that I would come over here later with my rook and capture this pawn. And then I would have two connected pawns, which are going to be much better at supporting each other as they push forward. However, in this particular example, if I do this and then later try to do this, notice this black bishop is on a light square. It could control that pawn, and I might actually not be able to capture that pawn. I think I could see some tricks to get it done, but let's just say for this example, I'm worried about that. In this case, I think I will take it. But some situations, it's pretty obvious where you can push by, go and capture it with another piece, and you keep your pawns together, and they can be much stronger. See, now I'm here. I can't really move forward, right? If I had a pawn here that I could use to help, they could sort of support each other as they go down. So just something to think about. All right, so we've kind of stopped what black was doing. Now we can continue with our plan, and let's go ahead, push these forward. I'm going to try to tuck my king over here and keep marching my passed pawn down the board. And notice how these endgames, it's like very subtle. Like, okay, you got to deal with something over here, or I can go back to your plan, deal with something over here. Okay, go back to your plan. And you just keep doing that. So here I see a nice little tactic. I can pin the pawn, and then I'll be able to capture it. So I will go ahead and do that. And I'm going to be taking it probably with my rook, which means the only way black can, well, they can't win the pawn back, but if they want to trade to mess up my pawn structure, they have to give up the rook, which makes it easier for me. So I'll go ahead and take it that way. And if they don't trade, then my pawns stay nice and pretty. I have 4 passed pawns now, and it's going to be very easy to push these down the board. Okay, let's go ahead and continue. We'll just keep pushing. These guys are farthest advanced, and my king is here to support them. So I think this makes the most sense to try to focus on pushing these guys. My rooks are in pretty good spots. I don't really feel a need to move either of the rooks at the moment. I think we just push the pawns. That's the best strategy. Okay. Now I need to move it, right? So let's go here. We'll put it on a dark square so that the bishop can't attack it. Notice how I have a lot of my pieces on dark squares, and it makes this bishop basically useless. That's the one disadvantage of bishops at the end of the game. If you want, you can completely ignore them, and there's nothing the bishop can do, as opposed to a knight and constantly hop around and keep attacking you wherever, whatever color square you're on. Okay, let's push forward. Now I could push this way or this way. When you're pushing pawns against a bishop, generally speaking, you want to push this one that, how do I say this? If I were to push the other one, notice how they're both on dark squares. The bishop kind of slices across and stops them from moving forward. Now I have my rook supporting, so it's a little bit different. But by doing it the way that I did, it cuts off the bishop, and I can keep pushing this one further. So you kind of want to pay attention to which color the bishop is, where is it at, and that kind of can give you a clue which pawn you should push, if that makes sense. In this case, it doesn't really matter because I have so many pieces and pawns that can help me. But sometimes you only have 1 or 2 pawns. You have to do it in the right way, otherwise you won't be able to get past. Okay, let's see. So it's already defended, and if I can make that rook move, I would be good to go. So how do I do that? Well, I'm going to leave him because he's already defended, and I'm going to bring this rook down here to attack. And black is going to either have to give up their rook. They could try to bring the bishop back to defend, but I've got that square covered, and so black really doesn't have any good options here. All right, our opponent decides to capture the rook, so we will take it back and get the queen in the process. We want to make sure it's not a stalemate, but black has the bishop that they can move, and so, of course, there is no stalemate. All right, let's play a new 10-minute game. We have crossed 400. 403. All right, we're black. Let's play e5. We're just mirroring the pawn. Bishop c4. All right, let's go ahead and bring our knight out. Defend center pawn. Okay, let's just keep developing. Bring out both pieces. Okay, so when I see this move, what do I want to keep an eye on, right? What's behind it? That's a checkmate. So I want to make a mental note. Don't move my knight. Don't move my knight right now, or I will lose the game. Whenever your opponent brings out their queen, in like the first 5 moves, a lot of times you want to ask yourself, can I attack it and gain a tempo? And I see a way to do that right now, knight to d4. And I also have the bonus that I'm attacking this and threatening fork. And so really, white has to go back to d1. And essentially, I got this move for free. Now, is it the best move? Like, if white goes back here, is my position totally winning? Not necessarily, but at least I have my knight in the center. I got it for free. And here we go, another opportunity. What's the best move in this position? Well, you probably said capture this, which is a good move, but I would argue that a better move is the move d5. Again, what am I doing? I'm paying attention to the queen, and here you go. They didn't notice it. Now I can capture the queen. So sometimes you have a good move. You want to look for a better move, right? Doesn't necessarily mean that there is a better move. Just look very quickly, right? Do you see a better move? I did. And that wasn't going anywhere because white really had to save their queen. If they would have saved the queen, I could have done this next move. Also could have captured the bishop. So now we got the queen and we still get the fork, right? Hopefully that makes sense. Let's go ahead and take the rook. And here actually is another example of I don't actually have to take the rook. It's stuck. I could do something else. So for example, I could take this and that's still there for next turn, right? So these are the things, you want to think about. Okay, I will take that. Now I have both rooks under attack. And a lot of this happened to white because they brought the queen out early, right? So I'll take this one. Again, this one is still trapped. So it's not going anywhere, right? Okay, and I mean, I still don't have to take it. I could, but maybe I'll just develop instead. The bishop lined up here, and we can start thinking about creating a checkmate threat. May not even need to take that rook at all, actually. Okay. Well, I will take it with the bishop. And if they capture, I'm going to be taking back with the pawn, not the knight, because obviously my knight is about to take the rook, right? So, okay. So now the rook is free. It's probably time to take it, although I do see the opportunity here to create a checkmate threat, and so I'll do that instead, right? If they save the rook somewhere like this, this is checkmate, okay? So again, you have a good move, but do you have a better move, right? And here we go, we have the checkmate. Okay, let's play another game. 454. All right, let's mirror the pawns. Can't go wrong with that. Let's defend. We're being attacked, and we will simply defend. And let's just do that as well. So here we go. Everybody's got their knights out. Brings the bishop out. I'm going to keep developing. Now, one thing, this is being attacked, and it's currently defended by my knight. So what's going to happen if white trades? I'm going to lose the pawn, right? You either have to deal with that, so maybe a move like d6 to defend, or have a follow-up in mind. And I do have a follow-up in mind. So let's see if we will actually see that in this game. If we don't. We don't see it in this game. So I was going to say if they took, I captured, and then they took, I was thinking about capturing here with my bishop, luring the king out, and then the queen would come up for a fork. And so that was kind of going to be my plan. In this case, white might be trying to play d4, which is actually a solid option. Let's see if they are planning that. Yeah, that's a good move. That is a good move by my opponent. So I got the piece, but I have to choose now which one do I want to give back. And there's a couple of ways we could do this. Option one is to go here, and when they take, we simply take here. I think that's solid. The other option is I could go here, and when they take, I bring my knight in. And then I have some pressure on this with my knight, also unleashes my queen. That looks like a very aggressive option, and so let's go ahead and go with that one. So we'll go here. When they take, we're going to bring the knight in. Okay, here we go. So this is what I was talking about. We have the pin. Oh, they dealt with the pin. Very good. So this person is playing very well, actually. They're seeing these basic tactics. So what am I going to do here? Let's go ahead and reevaluate the situation. We've tried to traded some stuff off. So usually after you trade and the dust kind of settles a little bit, you want to sort of reorient yourself. So like who's ahead, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I also have 7 pawns. So it's even. We each have 3 pieces. Okay. So what that tells me is if I want to trade, that's okay. Trading is okay because we're even. I'm not like down material. But I'm also starting to think about this. Do I want to launch an attack here? Or even does sacrificing make sense and then falling up? I don't really think so. I think this is a pretty easy threat for white to deal with. They'll just play G3 and I don't really have anything. And so with that in mind, I think I will do some trades over here and try to maybe mess up white's pawn structure and castle and just go into an endgame where I have a slight advantage. Okay, so with that in mind, let's take this way. And let's take again to force white's pawn structure. Okay, so notice this is what I'm talking about. Look at my pawns and look at white's pawns. You can see the difference. All right, so let's go ahead and castle. We want to get our king out of the center. And as the game goes on, these are going to be my targets. It's kind of my long-term plan of, all right, let's try to hunt those pawns down. Okay. Also, I do want to finish my development. I've castled, but I don't have this bishop developed. So I think what I'm going to do is play a6 and then get the bishop out over here. Why am I doing it that way? Because if I try to play a move like d6 to let it out like this, white was going to capture and then force me to either capture with the pawn or eventually trade queens and then capture with the pawn. And I would have this isolated pawn, which is a weakness. Okay, and I don't want to deal with that. So I'm going to do it a little bit differently. So let's probably b6 or b5 is what I'm thinking about. I am kind of asking myself the question, but what's going to happen if the bishop goes to e4? So do I really want to allow that? I can move over and then go here for a trade. I think that looks fine. And so I will play, let's just say b6. I think they're both fine, but I'll go with b6. Okay. Good move by my opponent. What are they trying to do, right? Always ask yourself that question. There's no fear here from white. So that's a good move. So I don't really have any pieces that can defend. If you don't have pieces that can defend, you need to probably block. So I have really 2 ways to do it, h6 or g6. If I play h6, blocks off the queen, but then there's this move queen to f5, and again, I'm having to deal with that threat. Now, I could, at that point, play g6, but then I've had to move 2 pawns in front of my king, which actually creates a lot of weaknesses. That's more than I would like to do. However, if I just play g6, then it's only 1 pawn move. Now, yes, the queen can come in there, but I do have my queen, which can probably eventually trade with that or help out support. So I think I'm going to go with g6 in this case. And yeah, opponent is doing a great job. Okay, so whenever you're in a situation like this, there's two things that you want to think about. Number one is what is the immediate or the most powerful threat that might be coming next? And then also, how can I potentially get rid of the queen that's in front of my king? Those are kind of the 2 things that I'm thinking about. So first of all, this is not really a threat anymore. I mean, yes, white could capture here, but I have 2 pawns defending it. That's totally fine. Is there any way that the queen could come in here and checkmate me? Well, not really. The only piece that could really help that, and this that's on the board, would be a pawn, right? The bishop can't, the rook can't control this. The only thing would be this pawn, like if this pawn was right here. Also, if this pawn was right here and it captured and then this captured, then maybe my king actually would be in danger. So what does that tell me about the position? The only move that I really need to be worried about in this position is f4, followed by f5. So I kind of know, okay, that's really what I need to plan against. Now, keep that in mind also with the fact of like, is there a way that I can make this queen move away from my face? And that's kind of what I'm going to be thinking through as I figure out what to do. And I think I'm going to go with queen to e7. There's a couple of points. Number one, it attacks this. Now white might be defending that with f4 and getting ready to play f5. But still, it attacks that. Also, it gives me the option to play queen c5 check and create some counter threats of my own. And it also, sorry, the opponent is talking to me, so I'll just go ahead and play. It also gives me the option of moving my rook over and coming back here and trading off this queen, which would be a great thing for me in this position, right? Because this is kind of dangerous. This is kind of dangerous. So I am going to do that. I'm going to play rook to e8, and I'm going to probably bring my queen back and try to trade it off. Remember, long term, the longer this game goes on, as we trade more and more pieces, I'm going to have the advantage because of the pawn structure. So I just kind of need to survive the attack here, and we should be fine. Okay, so again, this is a very dangerous move, and so with that in mind, I'm going to play queen f8 to try to trade off the queens. Probably, if white is smart, yeah, they won't trade. They'll just go back, right, which is a good move. But now I feel much safer, right, because now my queen can actually come here and help support all of these squares around my king, and I don't have to worry so much about getting checkmated. So with that in mind, I'll play bishop b7, finally finishing my development. Opponent has actually been playing very, very strong moves. And again, a rook lift coming over to try to checkmate me. Like, very, very strong. So let's go ahead and we can always defend with the queen. So I think we're okay there. Let's go ahead and bring this rook to the center and get ready to try to counterattack in the center here. Okay, they're going for the checkmate. So what are we going to do? Kind of already talked about it. Queen to g7, defense. And probably d6 to try to open things up. Okay, good move by my opponent. Opponent is playing very, very strong. Like, very, very strong for 400. Ah, they just joined a few months ago. Okay, interesting. So I'm going to speed up a little bit because I'm just getting a little bit suspicious. Just a little bit. But we'll see. Like, we'll see. Okay, they take me. I think we have to trade here. Tactically, if I take back, I'll lose my rook. So I think we trade, and then we can take back. Should be fine. If check, we can block. And notice the time. I am going to have to move a little bit faster. We're at that 2-3 minute mark where I don't want to run out of time. So we're going to be playing quickly. So this might be like the first big mistake that our opponent has made, I think, because we can pin it. Although if rook to e3 happens, maybe it's yeah, this should be fine. So we'll play rook here, and what I'm doing is pinning it to the queen and also attacking it. So I think white's only move now is to play rook to e3 to defend. But now it gives us the option to trade and then capture here with our queen. And I think I am going to do that because, like I mentioned, the pawn structure is better. Our pawn structure is better. White's is weaker, and we already can grab that pawn for free. Okay, now queen ending. Have to watch out for perpetual checks. So I want to keep that in the back of my mind with where do I put my king. And if I can force a queen trade, that might be the easiest and simplest thing to do. So let's see if we can do that. So let's start with a check here. And I'm trying to look for ways to potentially force a queen trade, right? Because I have 3 against 2. I'll probably win the end game if we can get there. So let's see, how do we do this? Let's play c6. I'm trying to set up queen to d5 to force a trade. Okay, so let's play queen to d5 and go into this end game where I have the extra pawn. I really don't get the feeling that our opponent is playing like a 400 though. Even this move, like, instead of just taking, they're wanting me to take to, you know, get the queen out. So what I'm going to do is bring my king over. Active king in the endgame is very important, and this is a guaranteed trade. This is not going anywhere unless white steps out of the pin. So I'm going to try to use my king as much as possible. So let's go ahead and bring it forward. Take back this way. Take this. And here we go. And finally, we have a winning endgame. Opponent played very, very well. But the easiest thing to do is to use my pawn to threaten to become a queen, and really there's nothing white can do. So what I'm going to do is use this as a decoy, kind of. Probably just sacrifice it and come over here and take these. I'll have 3 pawns to finish off the game. Okay, let's go here. Here. And now we want to control the queening square. And once you get this set up, you just push your pawn all the way, get the queen. And the only thing we have to watch out for is a stalemate. All right. Yeah, our opponent played a great game. I actually want to check the game review on that one. That was very surprising. Yeah, they played an 80 accuracy. Very, very high accuracy for a 400 rated player. So I don't know. I mean, could have just been that they just haven't played much and their rating hasn't caught up. But that was very well played. Anyway, we still got the win. Let's go ahead and play. Let's see what time it is. I can play 1 or 2 more games. And here we go. Let's play e4. Get control of the center. Let's just attack. Knights before bishops. Let's just keep developing and controlling the center squares. I am keeping an eye on this. Okay, I'm keeping an eye on this. So maybe the knight's going to come in, right? I want to be prepared for that. The way that I'm going to prepare is by playing bishop c4. You say, how does that prepare for this? I'm getting ready to castle, right? I've mentioned this before. If somebody's attacking you on f2, a good way to deal with that, just castle. And now your rook is defending. And if they want to trade a knight and a bishop for a rook and a pawn, let them do it, right? We are very happy with that trade. You're very happy with that trade. Yep, and Black is going to go for it, and so we will just take that. Okay, and the game plan stays the same. Continue developing our pieces. Got to get this bishop out. Use the rook. And d3 or d4, do I want to be more passive or more aggressive? I'll be more aggressive. I'll play d4. I have 3 pieces out, and Black has none, right? They traded off their only 2 pieces that were out. So, we could take with the queen and threaten this, or we could take with the knight. Yeah, we'll take with the queen. There is this move, but then I can come in here, and I think that's fine for me. Bishop's coming out next. Okay, so Black deals with it that way. Yeah, let's just play bishop g5. It's a tempo move, so I'm developing, but at the same time, I'm making Black waste time, right? Because Black would like to get these pieces out. But by me attacking the queen, they can't. And I have a bonus here that they can't even block with the pawn because of this pin. So I think that's a really strong move. And then I can immediately follow it up with bringing my rook into the game, if that's what I want to do. And I think I will. So I'm looking at the half-open files that I have, the D file and the F file. Okay, these are important because if I put the rook anywhere else, any of these, it's going to be hitting one of my own pawns, right? Which is going to limit the effectiveness of my rook. But these, it's easy to move pieces out of the way of the rook. Pawns can't, because pawns only move forward, right? So if I put this here and I move this pawn, it's always going to be blocking my rook, if that makes sense. So with all that said, I'm going to go to F1 to try to line up here. You're going to see what I mean when I just move my king and my knight out of the way. All of a sudden, my rook is in the game. Now, first, of course, we have to deal with the threat on our queen. So let's just go back somewhere. Let's see. I don't know. Maybe... I'm looking at like Black's pieces and which ones are going to be able to attack me. So let's go here. If I would have went to d3, maybe I have to worry about knight to b4 or knight to e5 attacking me. Also, this is on a dark square. This is a light square bishop. So with all that in mind, I think this is a good... Oh, didn't see that. That's a good move. Thankfully, I can just trade it. But that's actually a powerful move because it's attacking this and threatening this fork. But we do have this trade available, thankfully. And so we'll do that. And then, like I said, let's go ahead and bring the king back. And here we go. You can see that the rook is now unleashed. We have the rook, bishop, and we have some pressure on that f7 pawn. I'm looking for squares. Knight to d5 almost looks good, but c6, can stop my knight. So I might not get an opportunity to bring it in. I'm also thinking about bringing the queen over here and creating some sort of a checkmating attack here on the king. Also maybe here and just piling up even more on there. Okay, so here's an interesting opportunity. I have the option to sacrifice my bishop for these 2 pawns. And do I want to do it? What are the things that are going to be going through my mind? Well, I have a lead in development. That's kind of one box of like, might be a good idea to do it. Black has this kind of awkward setup here where the bishop is stuck, which means the bishop can't move right away, which means this rook is going to be out of the game. So these pieces are kind of out of the game for a bit. That's another thing that kind of makes me think I should maybe do it. A third thing I'm noticing is after takes, I have this threat of queen g6 check because my bishop is pinning that pawn, which looks very good. Also, the rook can probably come up and over to help assist my queen. Also, the knight can probably come in and help attack the king. That's like 5 or 6 things that all sort of fit together to tell me I should probably sacrifice the bishop. I don't have to. I could have gone back here and retreated and the game goes on, right? But there was a lot of things that were telling me, hey, you need to do this sacrifice and go hunt down the king. On top of that, I didn't see an easy way for black to defend right away. Now, upon further investigation, I am noticing there's this move queen to d4 check, which I did not see before, where I will lose my bishop. However, even if that happens, knight to d5, followed by knight to f6, looks like an unstoppable threat to me. So even with that, takes, check, takes, knight to d5, but my rook is hanging. So maybe I made a mistake there. I think I actually did. Now my opponent didn't see it. They decided to not take it, but I think I did make a mistake there. And that just goes to show you want to be looking at what can your opponent do, and that's a very powerful move that I overlooked. Okay. All right. Well, since they didn't do it, I think now is the time to continue attacking. So we'll play here with the checkmate threat because it's pinning the pawn, so it can't take my bishop. And yes, I saw it this time, but that's not going to work now because of the checkmate. So black has to probably play g6, like only move. g6, and then I'll play queen f6, and I think it's over. I think it's over. Oh, no, it's pinned. Yeah, it's pinned. I forgot. I could just take it and checkmate. Never mind. So it's over for black, unfortunately. They had an opportunity, though. If they would have taken that, followed up with the check, taken my bishop, all of a sudden, black might have been able to survive. Now, I don't know. Actually, look at this one, because that was a very interesting position there. Let's go see. What does Stockfish have to say about that sacrifice? And let me actually put on the eval bar for you guys. Quick. Okay. Let's see. In here, takes. H6. Okay, so it's one of the top moves. The top move is knight to d5. Wow. Yeah, that's a Stockfish move for you. Interesting stuff. I guess the idea is after takes, your knight is coming in and it's super powerful. But it was listed as one of the moves here. And let's just see. Okay. Again, knight to d5 is the best move. But if this would have happened, yes, rook to f3 is the move. And there's no way for black to stop this. Okay, so it was still winning for me. I didn't see all of that. I missed a few things there. But going back to what I was saying of like, okay, bishop's out of the game. My pieces are well positioned for an attack. Black's behind in a development. You know, all those things kind of came together to where I decided to do it, and it was a pretty good move. Okay, we'll play one more game. Let me go new 10-minute. Let me go back to this screen here for a second, and there we go. All right, this will be the last game for this video. Let's play d5. Stick with mirroring the pawns. Bring our pieces out. And okay, we have a stonewall setup. So I was about to play e5, but now it's not really a great move. So the thing about the stonewall is it's very solid. You have to kind of just play it slow. You can't just, you know, rush through it, essentially. And so let's just buckle up for a slower game here. So we'll play bishop f5. Get ready to play e6. Get this bishop out. And we'll castle. Okay. Do I want to trade or not? There are pros and cons to both. Trading does double up the pawns. It also opens up the F file, which is something I will have to watch out for. But if I wait and allow this, then it doubles up my pawns, which isn't the end of the world. I can actually use that to attack. So either way is fine. I think I will go ahead and trade in this case and jump the knight into e4. So this is a nice square for my knight. This is one of the, you could say, drawbacks of the stonewall. So that when you advance both of these pawns forward, you have no pawns left that can control this e4 square. And so notice how I've got a nice clamp on that square. Okay, the other thing, what's the thing that I always say about when they play f4? It opens up which diagonal? This one. So can I go there? I can. Is that a good move? It might be. It might be. Now, it would be better if it was my queen. Unfortunately, I can't do that. But even with the bishop, it's still a good move because if the king, let's just say, moves, I can hop in here with the fork. The question is, what happens on g3? Am I willing to sacrifice, or do I just have to go back? And if that's the case, do I still want to go there? If we take with the knight, let's just say, takes, we get 2 pawns, and we kind of open up the king. Is that enough of a trade-off for me? For me, it is. I want to play an aggressive game. Is it the best move according to Stockfish? Probably not. I doubt it is. Probably I should just castle, play something normal. But I am going to go for it because I want to get to the king and play an aggressive game. And this is an easy way to do that. That's still pretty good. I mean, 2 pawns for a piece is not bad. Okay. Opponent actually messes up and doesn't take and allows me some tactics. So they've allowed me this discover check. So this is a very interesting moment. I have 2 options that are jumping out at me. Both of these I can capture with check. This one I think is better because it's a rook. And then next move we do this. And we end up taking a bunch of white's pieces. So a little bit of a tactical miscalculation there by my opponent, you might say, allowing this. And it just goes to show, like, when you play aggressively, sometimes your opponents will make mistakes. Even if you didn't play, let's just say, the best move according to Stockfish. And practically speaking, you might have better chances to win the game. Okay, so I'm not worried about that. It's defended. I'm not really worried about that. It's defended. This pawn is under attack, so I'll probably just defend it with g6. Everything will be nice and pretty. This is already defended, so we'll play g6. And it's a tempo. I don't give my opponent time to develop their pieces. You've heard me say that over and over again. They have to move their queen, and I think I will play queen here. 2 reasons. Number 1, almost forces a queen trade, which if it happens, it's fine because I'm ahead material. I would be happy to do that. The other thing is if the queen tries to come in here and attack me, then I can castle this way, and my rooks are now supporting each other. And then the third thing is if the queen trade doesn't happen, my queen is in an aggressive spot to attack the king. So all that being said, let's play queen to g5. I'm probably anticipating this move. And we're just going to castle over here. Yep, there you go. So we had planned for this. Let's follow through. Notice how everything is now defended. My king is safely tucked away on the other side of the board. I haven't moved these pawns, so there's no weaknesses. And yes, white's queen can take this pawn if it wants, but that's really, it's only a pawn, and I'm trying to think about how to attack the king over here. So, okay, they're attacking my queen. Where do I want to go to? I can't go there, I can't go there, I can't go there, but I could go here. So we'll do that. Attacks this, threatens to come in here, also keeps defending my bishop. Okay, so let's look at our options as far as where can the queen go. I mean, I'm looking at all my pieces, but the knight can't go there. The bishop can't really do much. The knight can move here, but that doesn't accomplish a whole lot, I don't think. This move, however, looks very good because it's a check, and when the king moves somewhere, I'm going to be able to snag the knight. So queen to g2 check looks like the move, followed by probably taking the knight, although let's see where the king is going to go. We may have a better option. Okay, we could also play knight f2 check. We've got the king boxed out here, which is going to force it to go back, which then gives me the option to use my knight again. That looks pretty good as well. But I think I'll just take the knight first and maybe follow up with that. This also has the threat of going here, going here, going here. So lots of options. Okay, so white does finally take the pawn. So now I'm going to look for checkmates. And we're going to start with the checks and see what we can find. So check with the knight would force here or here. If it goes here, then that's check and checkmate. If it goes here, then that's checkmate right away. So there's the checkmate. I found it, and I will play it. Knight to f2. And white has 2 options. They both get checkmated. This one is checkmate immediately. This one, it's 1, and then they go back here, and we swing over here. So that was a good game by my opponent. They played the stonewall pretty well. I mean, at the 400 range, I would say that was pretty well played. Okay, that's it for this video. I'll see you guys next time. Hopefully you learned something. We are 432, so we're getting there. We're getting there. I know a lot of people are like, I'll come back and watch when you're playing 1300s or whatever, but Oh, we'll be there before you know it. So thank you guys, and I'll see you next time.